rides here. You coming?
I think we both know this is where we go our separate ways.
I think it's safe to say that you guys expected this to happen ever since we undelivered that line in the main story. And 6 months later, after RE4R's release, that dream will become a reality. How's it going, guys? True Warrior here. And today I bring you an analysis of Resident Evil 4 Remake's DLC, Separate Ways. I know, I'm very late for the hype train of this game, but hey, life gets in the way. Having a job, doing what I love most, and more importantly, trying to be a better person every day. But like they say, better late than never, and now I'm here to talk about this amazing game. Like its original predecessor, Separate Ways tells the story of Resident Evil 4 Remake from the mysterious spy's perspective, Ada Wong, and how she carries out a mission to retrieve the amber from Luis Serra for her employee Albert Wesker. At first I wasn't expecting Separate Ways to happen, and I was fine if it didn't, to be honest, because the game is already amazing as it was on release. But as time went by, that statement slowly changed to, I wanted this DLC to be a thing. Not just because of wanting to play more RE4R and seeing what else Capcom can do with Separate Ways' story, but I also wanted to see more of Lily Gao as Ada. As many of you know, a majority of the people who played RE4R wasn't satisfied with Lily's performance to the point where she received a huge backlash from the community that unfortunately ended up with her closing her social media for some time. And while I don't agree on what the community did, I will admit that after my first playthrough of RE4R, my opinions about her performance were neutral. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't overjoyed with it either, and after playing the other difficulties again and again, Ada's voice slowly grew on me to the point where I said, I want to see more, and on September 21st, I will get the chance to see that. Now before I begin with this analysis, I want to remind everyone that this whole video will be my own personal opinion of the subject at hand. Yes, I know I've repeated the same dialogue over and over for the past few videos, but please understand, I want to remind people that everyone's point of view is different but respected at the same time. And I repeat this so you don't be like this guy who threw this comment on my Death Island review. My man, not everyone is gonna have the same opinion as you do, and if that's the case, you don't have to be a jerk about it. With that being said, let us begin. The campaign starts off in Salazar's castle, where we see a captive Luis dancing flamenco while someone is being murdered nearby. Afterwards, Ada, who's dressed as one of Salazar's henchmen, comes to free Luis, and together they proceed to escape the castle's dungeon. Now, right off the bat, I told myself, 2 minutes into this DLC, and these two already have more interaction than in the original Separate Ways, which is one of the things I came to love about RE4R, them deepening the lore for the game and their characters. Especially Luis, who in the 2005 version was originally a cop that got killed halfway through the original game, after pointing out the president's daughter's ballistics.
How rude!
To a scientist was eager to help out his allies the best way possible. We already love his character, but him dancing to the song from the RE4R trailer and trying to seduce Ada, who, judging by her face, was not comfortable with the situation, is the definition of starting off with a bang. As they attempt to escape, both of them get ambushed by zealots and one of Salazar's bodyguards, who is later revealed to be named Pesanta. Pesanta acts like this story's pursuer, similar to how Mr. X, Nemesis, Ustanak, and Lady Dimitrescu do in their respective games. Cornered, Luis escapes in order to retrieve the amber, leaving Ada behind to deal with Pesanta. Before the two engage in combat, Pesanta manages to wound Ada, infecting her in the process. This will lead Ada to see illusions of Pesanta every time they encounter each other. I got very taken away from the beginning of this DLC. From the dashing introduction Luis gave to the audience, to the first encounter being a boss of this game, which is very different to the original Separate Ways, being that it starts in the village where Ada has to fight off the Ganados. Speaking of which, we also don't get to see Ada's reports at the start of each chapter in the remake, just like we do in the original. Which I'm glad, because I feel like it's not necessary unless the player doesn't touch the game for a daily basis, and needs to be reminded of what has happened in the game so far. Then, the game introduces two of Ada's gadgets that she uses during her missions. The first one being a device called the Interactive Retinal Inquiry System, or IRIS in short, that lets Ada track a person's footprints and fingerprints. The second being her classic grappling hook, which besides using it to climb high places, the player can use it in combat similar to how Leon's suplex moves works. Also, later in the game, the player has a chance to get Ada's Case Charm, which will give her access to use the grappling hook to remove the shields from certain enemies. Moving forward, as Ada makes her way throughout the village, she notices Leon Kennedy being attacked by a horde of ganados. Taking advantage of the situation, she heads towards the church where Ashley Graham is held captive and rings the church's bell, making the ganados retreat and saving Leon in the process. Outside the church, Wesker informs her that he has lost track of Luis's signal around Vitores Mendez's house, and Ada suggests looking there next. On her way there, she bumps into the merchant who kinda takes a liking to Ada. In his shop, we'll see he's selling similar weapons from Leon's story, but we also see some new toys he has available specifically for Ada. And during our first buy, we get to hear the second remix of the Serenity scene from the original game. This almost brought a tear to my eye. The first time I played this on stream, I was shocked when I heard this. I didn't expect them to do another remix of the song after they already did it in this game. Also, something I forgot to mention before is that when the player goes to the typewriter to save their game, you can also hear a different remix to RE4's original save room. But that doesn't end there. In the main menu, there's a remix of the original Separate Ways theme playing in the background and a remix of Ada's theme from Resident Evil 2 Remake every time a chapter ends. Like, they didn't have to go this far, but Capcom once again shows their love and loyalty to the original version of RE4. On her way to Mendez's house, she arrives at the heart of the village where once again she faces off against Pesanta. As she was about to deliver the final shot against the tall beast, Ada's infection gets in the way and makes her miss the shot, to which Pesanta takes advantage and flees. At this point, Ada's infection is slowly getting the best of her. Upon arriving at the Big Cheese's residence, we see the same cutscene from the main story where Mendez is injecting Leon with a Plaga parasite, and Ada comes to his aid by shooting at the chief's face. This makes Mendez drop Leon and go outside to see if he can catch the culprit responsible for the shooting, but fails. After Mendez and Leon exit the house, Ada goes in to find any leads of Luis's whereabouts. Inside, she finds a photo with the note saying to take everyone captive to the factory basement. Believing that Luis was taken there, Ada heads to the factory, but upon arriving at the basement, Luis isn't seen. I should point out that during our tour in the factory, the Ganado that wears Leon's jacket makes a returning appearance in this game. Only that this time you can actually sell the jacket to the merchant to gain some pesetas along the way. Part of me would have wished that maybe Ada would wear it for a moment, but that probably would be a bit too cringe to think about it. Inside the factory, she gets called by Don Quixote de la Mancha himself, telling Ada that he'll meet her outside the village to give her the amber. On her way outside the factory, she gets surrounded by ganados and her infection gets a hold of her to the point where she loses conscience while a man in a black suit is seen from afar, who is later revealed to be Wesker, who stepped out of the shadows to assist Ada and bring her inside Mendez's house, where inside Wesker insists Ada to bring him the amber. As she arrives outside the house where Leon, Luis, and Ashley are, she gets attacked by El Gigante and a few ganados, who she engages in this incredible battle where she shows off her combos with her knife and grappling hook. With El Gigante dead, she reunites with Luis, who isn't holding the amber but tells the spy that she will go get it, and they both head back to the Salazar's castle. In there, Luis notices that the symptoms of the infection were starting to show on Ada. Determined to help her as well as Leon and Ashley, who also shared the same infection, the both of them head towards Luis's laboratory. However, upon arriving, his laboratory is seen in flames. Worried, he recklessly goes in, but Ada follows and gets Luis out of the burning lab. Now, I do love this scene because there's so much happening at the same time. First of all, Luis's actions to put his own life at risk to help other people, and then him being upset about seeing his life's work in ruins. But unlike Umbrella or Los Iluminados, he wants to use his work to, in his own words, set things right. Now, we learn throughout Leon's point of view that this game's version of Luis Serra Navarro is responsible for many things, such as helping in the research of Las Plagas and the creation of Nemesis from when he worked in Umbrella. And ever since then, Luis has felt guilty of his actions and wants to atone for what he has done, to which those feelings are reflected pretty well in Chapter 4. Luis's desperation to do anything in his power to try and do his best to help others. As for Ada, she goes ahead and saves Luis from the fire. Although one can argue that she mostly did this to get the amber, she then helps the Spanish Samaritan to get back on his own feet and tell him to make more. This came out of Ada. Wesker didn't order her to do it. On her own free will, she cheered up Luis to keep going. Now determined to make more medicine, he writes down a list of ingredients he needs for Ada to look for while he goes and retrieves the amber. After getting the ingredients, the two reunite and Luis gives Ada the amber, but upon making contact with it, her infection once again gets a hold of her. Without hesitating, Luis rushes to make a suppressant and injects it on Ada, but it doesn't take effect immediately. And to make matters worse, Pesanta slowly approaches them. Unable to take the amber, Ada stays behind and tells Luis she'll reunite with him once she deals with her infection. Barely escaping Pesanta and with Luis' suppressant finally taking effect, Ada goes and finds Luis to retrieve the amber. On her way, she once again bumps into Pesanta and the former begins to attack her once more, but ends up being crushed by a metal bridge, causing the black hooded figure to mutate into the not forgotten U3. I think I could speak for everyone when I say that I gave a roar of excitement when I saw this. I thought U3 got scrapped out from the remake, but Capcom saved it for the DLC in the form of Pesanta. You sneaky devils. Like its original predecessor, Pesanta can fight on melee range with its quads and its deadly underground tail attack, but in this DLC they give it some more range attacks as well by having it throw projectiles that explode over time. As the player deals damage to it, we go into the boss's second phase where Pesanta's tail separates from its main body, and acts like a centipede and also preserves its same attacks. This fight got me shaking. I have yet to play this on professional mode, but I did die a few times during my first playthrough on standard. You waste so much ammo trying to take this bug down while trying to dodge everything it throws at you, and to top it all off, after you have dealt some damage, a few Novisterers will enter the battle to make things more trickier for the player. These bugs along with Pesanta can make you have a hard time if you lower your guard. After the giant insect has been dealt with, Ada calls out the parasite within and crushes it. Finally getting that out of the way, she resumes her search for Luis, who reaches out to her saying that Krauser took possession of the amber after impaling him with a knife. Before dying, Luis expresses his gratitude to Ada for giving him the chance to make amends for his past errors. Ada arrives and witnesses a dying Luis and Krauser fleeing from the scene. Prioritizing her mission, she gives chase to the Major, which ends up in her missing him as the Major flees to the island on a boat. Ada acquires the boat key with Leon following soon after, and the pair make their way to the island. Upon arriving, Ada notices Krauser delivering the amber to Sadler, and Ada takes aim at both of them, but then Wesker appears behind, aiming her at gunpoint, telling her of a change of plans, to which she agrees to do and is handed over a briefcase, which is an override device to be connected with the main terminal in comms facility. In there, Ada encounters a brand new creature by the name Martinico, who can only be killed by powerful lasers, and starts chasing Ada. During the last stretch, the spy traverses the laser corridor and dodges its beams to make it to the terminal and connects the override device. Wesker initiates the countdown from the island's destruction, which includes Leon and Ashley as his casualties, much to Ada's conflicted mind. Ada plugs her USB to delay and minimize the explosion impact and leaves the area. Martinico bursts in soon afterwards, but Ada lures and kills the creature with the use of corridor lasers, and makes her way back to the main island stock with the jet ski. Now about this scene, does this remind you of anything?
What's that?
What's happening in there? Kaplan, you gotta hurry, you gotta help them! Oh my god, Kaplan!
I could not believe they actually referenced Paul W. Anderson's first Resident Evil movie, and not only in the lasers, Martinico's death was also a reference to Shade's death when he was shredded into pieces by the Red Queen's trap. Continue with the story, Ada manages to rescue Leon and Ashley from Sadler's control by firing at him, before separating the pair, leaving her alone with the leader of Los Iluminados, and they both engage in battle. Now Sadler pretty much has the same attacks as his original counterpart, only that the acid attack that both he and Salazar show in the main story are also part of this fight. Now something I want to ask is, when Sadler charges at you, you still take damage even though you're behind a wall to defend yourself? My question is there a way to avoid that attack? I would like to know in the comment section below, because I had a rough time with this fight. I stuck behind walls, I stuck behind pillars, and for some reason I managed to still take damage from it. I just want to know, for future reference. After a long fight, she incapacitates and retrieves the amber from him. but as she is informing Wesker of her acquisition of the sample, she is knocked out by the tentacle from Sadler's body. Being held captive, Leon frees her from the chains, but Sadler appears shortly and later mutates, leaving Leon to handle Sadler while Ada runs ahead to assist him. Later, she finds a rocket launcher and throws it at Leon, who delivers a killing blow to Sadler, putting an end to the cult leader of Los Iluminados, which after that leads us to the main storyline of Resident Evil 4 Remake. Ada retrieving the Amber, her and Leon going their separate ways, her contacting Wesker, who reveals his intentions of achieving global saturation, and her ordering the helicopter's pilot to change her course, ending her story. I know there's a post-credits scene after, but I want to talk about that later. With the addition of Separate Ways, I honestly feel like Resident Evil 4 Remake in general is as if I'm playing Resident Evil 2 Remake again. Leon and Ada's campaigns are different from each other. The same locations as well as unique ones for each of the protagonists, which is something that I feel that the original Separate Ways didn't accomplish. As for the story, Capcom really respects the original Separate Ways while giving it a few twists of its own. The only thing I'd say they took away is the fight between Ada and Krauser, which is understandable given that they don't have the same relation as in the original. Also, as a side note, apparently this DLC lasts longer than Resident Evil 3 Remake. Yeah, I kinda find that heartbreaking too. As for Lily Gao's performance as Ada, this is a topic I've been wanting to talk about ever since that incident. So we know this isn't the first time this kind of thing has happened among the community. And yes, I'm referring to the actors of Welcome to Raccoon City, Avon Jogia and Hannah John Kamen, and how like Lily they were harassed to the point where they closed the social media for a while. I understand that people have opinions whenever they like something or not, but going into someone's social media to throw shit at them isn't going to do things better. Like, for me personally, except for Chris and Claire's performance, overall I found Welcome to Raccoon City disappointing. But just because I dislike something doesn't give me the right to go to someone's social media to insult them because, after all, the actors are practically following the script. Let me explain this from a different point of view. Let's say I hire an internet company for them to install their service on the house, and then I start playing online, but I'm getting high ping and then Wi-Fi comes and goes. You know, your typical internet problems, and I start getting frustrated, so I call the company. An agent receives my call and I start yelling at the person for no reason. Now here's the thing. That agent I'm yelling at? It's not his or her fault. That person is just following the script. That person is just doing their job. Same thing can be applied here. The actors are just doing their work. True, it's the actor's job to give out a good performance, but I think it falls more on the director to give the green light on how the actor does, or in some cases, like Avon Jogia and Hannah John Kamen, you have to do the most with a bad script. People may disagree with what I'm going to say, but like I repeated before, it's okay to have different opinions as long as both parties keep it civil. I feel like this Ada is very different from what we are used to, but also welcoming at the same time. I just think that we are too used to seeing Ada as a sexualized character like in the original, but I quote Willie's words, "This Ada is an unpredictable, resilient, and not a stereotypical character." I think she did a pretty good job, and I'll even recognize that there was a moment in the DLC where Lily delivers a line that sounded very similar to how Sally Cowell did in the original 4.
Better get a move on. See you around.
See you around, Leon.
I also recall that people disliked Wesker's voice at the beginning but came to accept Craig Bernatowski as the voice of the mastermind. Like, as a community, like a good God of War once said,
"We must be better."
Now, about that after credit scene, I wanted to leave it at last because it is something that had me curious about the future of Resident Evil remakes. So about 4 months ago, Capcom released a survey that had a question that many fans were excited about, which was, let us know if there are any other Resident Evil games you want remade. And I saw people having different answers on Twitter like Resident Evil Survivor, Resident Evil Outbreak. I myself said Resident Evil 0, but among the most popular answer that the majority of the fans answered was Resident Evil Code Veronica, which I'll be honest, regardless of Resident Evil 0 needing some love as well, I do agree that Code Veronica needs it the most. However, in the after credit scene, we see Wesker looking at what it seems to be Jack Krauser's body, a contingency plan that Wesker prepared in advance if Ada failed to deliver the Ember, to which she did. Now, if you guys recall, in the original timeline, Wesker extracts a plaga from Krauser's corpse, which leads to the fabrication of Ouroboros, which tells me that Resident Evil 5 is the next to be remade. And if this isn't sufficient evidence, in the DLC when Wesker examines Krauser's body, you can hear in the background a remixed version of the same Wesker and Excella from Resident Evil 5 soundtrack.
We have all we need. We continue. As planned. Soon, the sun will set on the age of man.
So between Code Veronica and 5, which of the two is gonna be next? We already saw Capcom putting the events of Darkside Chronicles in 4, so will they do the same with Code Veronica, or will they end up skipping it? Regardless of the outcome, I feel confident in saying that if Capcom could do this with RE4R, I'm confident they'll do the same with future remakes, because Resident Evil 4 was already a very good game, but Separate Ways solidified that and possibly made it even better. But what do you guys think about Separate Ways? What did you like? What didn't you like? I would love to know your guys' opinions in the comment section down below. And as always, if you loved the video, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I get to see you again soon. But until then, keep on smiling.